Hey there, ready to unlock some serious career-boosting secrets. Today we're diving deep into the first 90 days, that Bible for nailing transitions by Michael Watkins.
Oh, absolutely a must read.
Whether you're stepping into a brand new company or you finally snagged that promotion, we're uncovering the strategies to not just survive, but absolutely crush it in those make-or-break first few
It's
months.
all about turning those initial jitters into, I've got this confidence.
And the book doesn't waste any time grabbing your attention.
No, it doesn't.
Watkins kicks off with these almost cautionary tales. Julia, who's nailing her current role, lands a promotion, but then things start to slip.
Classic case of what got you here won't get you there.
Totally. She's used to being the one calling all the shots.
Yeah.
This new position is all about collaboration, building consensus, not just barking orders.
And that's where understanding your specific transition type is crucial, which is where this stars concept comes in, right?
Right. Is your company a startup? Are you stepping in to lead a turnaround? Is it about realignment or acceleration of an already successful team?
Right.
Or maybe you're navigating a merger that's the S for us.
Right.
It seems like each of these scenarios demands a totally different playbook.
Imagine trying to steer a turnaround with the same loose experimental approach you'd use in a brand new startup recipe for disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
Or let's say you're joining a company that's killing it, rapid growth, but maybe things are getting a little chaotic.
Right.
Your approach there is going to be about bringing structure, streamlining systems, not reinventing the wheel.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
But how do you figure out your approach?
Hmm.
It feels like that's where a lot of us stumble. We fall back on what we know. Like Julia in the book, those old habits die hard.
It's about asking the right questions early on, and Watkins provides a fantastic checklist for this. Think of yourself as an anthropologist dropped into a new culture. You wouldn't just barge in and start imposing your own customs, right? You'd want to learn the lay of the land first.
Right.
So you'd ask questions. How do decisions really get made around here? What are the unspoken rules about communication? How is feedback given and received? Watkins even has you analyzing meeting dynamics. It's about quickly decoding the organizational DNA, figuring out what makes this place tick.
It's like learning a whole new language, those subtle cues that speak volumes.
And once you've got a handle on the culture, Watkins dives into something he calls the action imperative.
Okay, break that one down for me because it sounds a little intimidating.
It's that instinct to jump in and prove yourself by immediately taking action, even if you haven't fully grasped the situation yet. You're the new person, you want to make a splash, but it's like walking into a room with 100 light switches and randomly flipping them on, hoping for the best.
Could be disastrous.
Exactly. Watkins encourages us to resist that urge. Instead of rushing in, he suggests focusing on 3 key areas. Diagnose, connect, and adapt. Diagnose the situation, connect with key players, and adapt your approach based on what you're learning.
I've so been there.
Yeah.
You're so eager to prove yourself, you end up creating more chaos.
That's it. It's about playing the long game, setting yourself up for sustainable success. And speaking of setting yourself up for success, let's talk about your boss.
Yeah, because navigating that relationship is crucial. And Watkins breaks it down into these 5 essential conversations you need to have early on, right?
It does. It's all about achieving alignment with your boss from the get-go, making sure you're on the same page about expectations, resources, even working styles.
Okay, so walk me through those conversations because I feel like each one builds on the last, creating this strong foundation for a productive working relationship.
They do. You start with what he calls a situational diagnosis, which is basically aligning on the current state of affairs. What are the biggest challenges? What are the quick wins we can aim for? It's about making sure you and your boss have a shared understanding of the playing field.
Makes sense. And then you move on to expectations.
Right. What does success actually look like in this role? What are the key performance indicators? This is where you really nail down what's expected of you. Don't be afraid to get specific here. It'll save you a lot of headaches later.
I love that. So much of that early anxiety comes from not being crystal clear on expectations.
Absolutely. And then comes one of my favorites, the working style conversation.
Okay, tell me more about this one.
This is where you get to be upfront about how you operate best. Do you prefer frequent check-ins or more autonomy? What kind of feedback motivates you? What time of day are you most productive? This is about setting those boundaries and preferences early on.
So it's not just about adapting to their style, but also advocating for what works best for you.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're both set up for success. And then once you've had those conversations about expectations and working styles, it's time to talk about resources.
The resource conversation, which could feel a little intimidating, right? Like, hey, I just got here, but I need more support.
It's all about how you frame it. Don't just present a wish list, build a business case. Explain how those additional resources, whether it's budget, personnel, or even access to specific data, will directly contribute to achieving those goals you've already aligned on.
It's about connecting the dots for them, showing them how investing in you benefits everyone.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to be persistent. If a situation truly demands significant change, you have to be your own best advocate.
So we've covered the situational diagnosis, expectations, working styles, and resources, which leaves us with the fifth conversation, personal development. This one feels a little different. It's not just about the immediate tasks at hand.
Right. This one's about playing the long game. It's about showing your boss that you're invested in your growth and are thinking about your future contributions to the company. It's a chance to discuss your career aspirations, identify areas where you'd like to develop new skills, and explore potential mentorship or training opportunities.
It's almost like you're creating a roadmap for your future within the company.
Exactly. And it demonstrates that you're not just here to punch the clock, you're here to learn, grow, and become an even more valuable asset.
This is gold. So you've had these insightful conversations with your boss. You're starting to crack the code of the company culture. What's next?
Well, now it's time to focus on your team.
Because even if you're walking into a well-oiled machine, you're inheriting someone else's team, which comes with its own set of dynamics, right?
Absolutely. And Watkins has some really insightful advice for assessing your inherited team and making those often tough early personnel decisions. And he emphasizes that it's not just about technical skills, but about something he calls judgment.
Okay, judgment, beyond just being able to do the job, you need people who can make smart decisions, anticipate problems before they blow up. How do you even begin to assess for that?
This is where Watkins gets really tactical. He says, forget about work stuff for a minute. How do they approach decisions in their personal life? Maybe it's fantasy football, maybe it's travel planning, anything where they're applying logic and making predictions.
I love that. You're looking for those critical thinking skills, that ability to weigh information and make a judgment call, even if it's about something totally unrelated to work.
Exactly. It's a glimpse into their mental model. How do they process information? Do they fall for biases? Because that same thought process is going to show up in their work too.
And if you do inherit someone who just consistently demonstrates poor judgment, no amount of technical skill is going to make up for that, right?
It's a liability. Watkins reminds us that early personnel decisions are crucial. You've got to build that A-team, the folks who share your vision and can execute on it.
Speaking of vision, that's the next big thing, right? You've got to rally the troops around something bigger than just hitting quarterly targets.
It's about moving beyond tasks and deadlines and tapping into something more emotional. Watkins talks about crafting a shared vision that really resonates with your team.
What does that look like in practice? Because it's easy to say, we need a vision, but then you're staring at a blank whiteboard.
Watkins suggests drawing inspiration from a few places. Look at your company's overall mission. What are they really about? Talk to customers, understand what they love or hate about your product or service. And don't forget about past successes. What can you learn from those wins?
So it's like you're piecing together a puzzle, finding those nuggets that will resonate with your team and light that fire.
And once you have that clear vision, it's not just about putting it in a PowerPoint and calling it a day. Watkins emphasizes the power of storytelling.
Got to bring it to life, right?
Exactly. Use metaphors, paint a picture of the future you're all working towards. Get people excited, not just aligned. Because when they connect with the vision on an emotional level, that's when the magic happens.
So you've nailed the first 90 days. You're crushing it professionally. But what about the personal side of all this? Transitions are intense.
Oh, they are. And Watkins doesn't shy away from that. He dedicates a whole section to maintaining balance amidst the chaos. He's a big advocate for self-care.
No surprise there. Easy to let that slide when you're working crazy hours and trying to prove yourself.
But it's crucial. Make sure you're sleeping enough, eating well, making time for exercise or whatever helps you de-stress and recharge, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
And he also talks about delegation, which I think is huge. It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking, I'll just do it myself, it'll be faster.
But that's a recipe for burnout. Delegating effectively isn't just about offloading tasks. It's about empowering your team, trusting them to step up.
And sometimes you need a little outside support too. Watkins talks about the importance of finding mentors or advisors who can offer guidance.
Having that sounding board, especially someone who's navigated similar transitions, can be invaluable. They can offer advice, share their own experiences, and provide that much-needed encouragement when things get tough.
It really is about setting yourself up for success, both professionally and personally. And what I find so fascinating is that Watkins takes it a step further. He suggests that companies should be actively trying to accelerate everyone's transitions.
It's a brilliant concept. Imagine a workplace where transitions aren't something to be feared or just endured, but embraced, where companies invest in onboarding training and mentorship programs that set their people up to hit the ground running.
It's about creating a culture that recognizes that individual transitions are ultimately what drive the company's overall success.
Exactly. And it's not just about those big formal transitions either. What about when someone takes on a new role within their team? Or when a team gets a new project, this steep learning curve? Imagine if those mini transitions were also supported and celebrated.
It's about creating a culture of continuous learning and growth, which ultimately benefits everyone.
Couldn't agree more. It's about shifting the mindset from sink or swim to we're all in this together.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, from those critical first moves in your first 90 days to the importance of self-care and the company's role in supporting transitions. It really is a masterclass in navigating those pivotal moments in your career.
It really is. And it all starts with that shift in perspective. Transitions aren't just something to get through, they're opportunities for growth learning and ultimately greater success.
I love that. And for anyone listening, maybe take a minute to reflect on your most recent transition. What did you learn from that experience? What would you do differently next time? Because the more we can learn from those moments, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the ever-changing landscape of our careers.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. Reach out to those mentors, sponsors, even peers. We don't have to figure it all out alone.
Such wise words.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap for today's deep dive into the first 90 days. We hope this conversation has armed you with the insights and strategies you need to not just survive, but thrive in your next career chapter.